Remember what happened last time?
This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Good Friday, everyone. It is. The calendar says May 10th, but it feels kind of like March today out there.
Yeah.
We are getting into the lazy, hazy days of summer, but there's no laziness for us because it's an election year. And so,
what is summer? I guess May is still spring. I mean, when do we start
spring? Summer technically is June 21st or something like that.
All right, okay, that sounds about right. Yeah,
but I say summer starts June 1, frankly, or after Memorial Day.
I thought of summer is when I got out of school. Once I got out of school, once they release you on the last day of school, then I think it's summer.
That would have been around June 18th because you're about the same age as I am and went to school till roughly around June 18th.
Yeah.
Now I hear schools want to go to a 4-day school week.
Yeah. So what, just longer days? And just do it 4 days?
4 days, 30 minutes tacked on to the end of the day. I don't know if I'd want that, frankly.
I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know what the rationale, but
because that really does cut into personal time and stuff like that. And
do they do it to save money? Maybe saving money on bus drivers.
They're actually saying because they can't find teachers is the reason for that.
Oh, okay, that might be the case. I don't think it'd be fun to teach anymore. You know,
I don't think it ever was fun to teach, frankly.
Yeah, because I don't think you have I don't know that you have backup from parents, and I don't know that you have the discipline in schools.
Yeah, I think it's what do you call? It's I think in the old days, even neighborhood parents would tell kids to behave and it'd be okay.
Yeah, I think so. I remember, and not to jump you off your agenda, but I witnessed when I was a kid, I saw corporal punishment. I saw a lady take a ruler. She was the principal and whack kid right on the butt, and it broke the ruler.
Really? Was that you went to Catholic school?
No, it was public school. That she took the student out and went whack with a ruler, and it snapped.
Really, in Virginia, I guess in Virginia they must have had corporal because I mean I think you're a year younger than I am.
They got rid of it, but she was the principal's a really tough. She ran a tight ship. Oh my God, she was tough.
We had we had the French immersion, so we had this Monsieur Desdunes. He was from. I don't know where he was from, but he was, he was one of the French teachers, and there was a friend of mine. He would always take a yardstick and slam it on his desk. And I remember once he goes, "That is the 50th yardstick I've had to break this year," and it was only like November.
I just one teacher, and he'd sit in front of me while I watch a movie, and it's a packed class, and I was in the front row, and he'd sit right behind. And he would doze off during the movie. Everyone could see him dozing off. Some guy in the back rolled up a piece of paper and kept trying to hit him, but kept missing. Finally hits him right on the head, and I'm sitting right behind him. And as you can imagine, I laughed because I was right there. I couldn't help but laugh. And then everyone else was quiet. And
so they thought you did it.
He yells at me, says, "I'm glad you think it's funny because I don't." So, okay.
Well, maybe if you weren't sleeping, you could have dodged it.
Yeah, I remember one of my classmates who had gone to Catholic school he was grateful to be able to come to public school because
Yeah.
those nuns were tough,
Okay.
you know.
Oh,
But
they
yeah,
were. My mom. That's why her handwriting is so beautiful because in Catholic schools, and she learned to write. And if she'd say the nuns whap you on the knuckles if.
yeah, that's what I heard. They would wrap you on the knuckle.
Yeah.
Well,
But
not only that, the nuns would also, if you use your left hand, they broke that habit too.
yeah.
Lefties were the tools of the devil or something.
Well, by the way, this reminds me, and this is apropos now that we're talking about this. I was at McDonald's and in McLean, and I'm eating and I'm leaving, and I see this guy, look kind of homeless, and he's sitting on the little the bet table outside, and so I figured I'd go over and say hi and check on him. So I started talking to the guy, and as we're talking, he's like, "Yeah, I grew up in McLean," and I said, "Well, I grew up in McLean as well," and then he said, "Yeah, I went to McLean High School." I'm like, "Yeah, I went to McLean High School as well." Turns out he was in my graduating class at McLean High, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I looked him up when I got home. I saw the copy of the yearbook, and by golly, that was him. But I don't recognize him. I don't remember him in my class, but he was in the class, and I think the homeless version, the guy I saw the other night, had the gray beard on, and so I couldn't really see as much. But we chatted for like an hour about all the different students we knew at McLean. So it's kind of a trip down memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think we discussed.
Yeah, we're about 35 years away from high school, so.
Huh?
I said I'm about 35 years away from high school. I think this is our 30th. Yeah, this would be our 35th year.
Well, he seemed like a nice guy. He seemed happy. He didn't ask me for anything. So anyway, no, he was but a good guy. But yeah, it was interesting. Small world, I
Hey,
guess.
Craig, your teacher would be in jail today for doing
Yeah.
the same thing.
I didn't realize that Craig was such a troublemaker. He seems such like a nice guy.
I know.
Yeah.
He was very well behaved last night at the Orlick event.
Maybe Craig was a hooligan.
Now, there's a lot of reformed hooligans out there.
Yeah, there are. But yeah, I mean, even what David said is about this is it's interesting to see how paths diverge, right? I mean, you are in a bunch of 18-year-old kids, and you graduate, and you kind of think that most of them will go to college, some will maybe go and get a job or whatever, vocational school, but it's got to be a little bit of a shock to the system to see someone. I guess homeless or down on their luck that you kind of knew, or at least you shared, fellow classmates with, and it's like, boy, how life changes on people so quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
And things like that. But
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, and David, you're right too about having fun or not having fun being a teacher. It's just I think about my kids' teachers over the years, particularly when they were in elementary school. And they had some of those veteran teachers, the ones that have been teaching for 25, 30 years and things like that. People who really devoted their entire life to teaching and helping the kids and things like that. And, and they love the kids and the kids love them. And they would come back for the little graduation ceremonies or whatever award ceremonies that were there. But I think, we've just seen such a sea change, going on there because the parents are not holding the kids accountable by any measure. They'll accuse the teachers of doing things, right? As Dwight said, I mean, it's like, you could get arrested or something like that if for doing certain things. I mean, how many stories do we see where, principals and teachers that are standing up to defend themselves wind up on the hot seat for doing the right thing because it's not politically correct and society has shifted. I can't even imagine walking into most, classrooms across the country. It just seems like such a powder keg and something you just don't really want to be involved in. And maybe that's why charter schools thrive to a degree, is that there's teachers would they'll be willing to take lower pay to teach in an environment that they may consider safer and better and more student oriented. So many different things.
But I tell you, with schools, we've all had the great teacher that inspired us to do great things, frankly. But I tell you, today, I had friend's not the right word, frenemy. She used to teach at elementary school in Chevy Chase, where evidently she was telling us this is like when we were planning our 20-year reunion or 10-year reunion. She goes, a kid came up to her and said, well, my mom and dad said they make more money than you, so I don't have to listen to you.
Well, I think you told us right. Yeah.
And that's like 1999. We're talking 98, 99. I don't think that is like, I mean, honestly, it's like, most of them are liberal Democrats, but you still need to give teachers the respect they're due, frankly.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like there's a reason why homeschooling and charter schools and private schools are thriving, because nobody really wants to send their kids to public schools anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had administrators. I mean, one of the vice principal of Blair was a lady who was on the Board of Education, Judy Daca, and she was not the best of administrators, frankly.
Yeah.
I was thinking too about football coaches, because I remember our football coaches in high school. I would watch them. I mean, where they would really chew out players for mistakes they made, things like that. I don't think you can really do that in this day and age in the public school system. I think, we have too many snowflakes out there that's an harassment. It's kind of they get bounced out just like Bobby Knight in college. I mean, you can't. The coaches will get emotional, but I mean, they're not trying to really hurt the kids. They're trying to toughen them up.
You basically you're coddling the kids today, frankly. There's no. And I think that's why a lot of these kids, they've lowered the bar. So the first time they hit a speed bump in life, they have issues. They either, like many of them, it takes a long time for them to get over that little bump in the road they run into. Like my generation, Gen X, I mean, I think we're probably the second greatest generation after World War II generation, because we actually have overcome problems. We built the internet. We've we've done a lot of things, and our generation was so underrated, underappreciated. We were so apathetic. They said, how are we going to ever liberate Kuwait when we can't find Kuwait on a map? And look, we did. They said, I think the fact that a lot of kids were latchkey kids, and I think that gave them a sense of independence. That hey, if I come home, I know how to make myself a sandwich or a snack. I'm not relying on mom and dad to make my snack for me. And as we got older, nowadays, and I'll say it's like the Gen Xers kids, they've been you have the helicopter parents and all that, where you don't want to really give the kids the freedom. You don't want to give them the autonomy. You want to do everything for them. These are the parents that will sit and do the project for the kids that they're done in school, even though if the kids, no matter the kids don't want the parents to do it, the parents don't, oh, let me do this. You're not doing this, right? And, the kid ends up sitting aside and watching the parents do their projects, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's
we have a friend of ours, my wife was talking to the other day at the airport. We unusually had several people we knew on the flight back from Utah. I mean, I don't think I've actually ever encountered this. I mean, I had a friend of mine, met him on the outbound flight to Utah. He saw him in the lounge area, but on the way back to Baltimore, there were several of us, from this area on the same flight. And she was talking to my wife, and she said that she suffers from FOMO. And I thought about this a lot. She's a good mother. I mean, they've had 6 kids, and she does a lot with them. And her last child is, 16, 17, so that that she'll soon be in an empty nest situation. But it did make me realize as I thought about her social media posts and things like that, it is so true. She's like doing all these things. It's like she can't miss anything, right? But the tiniest little thing, she can't do it. She will do all kinds of things, and she she doesn't go to bed probably until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and so and her kids will stay up that late too, right? That all her kids apparently have been, they've been very much raised as night owls, but it's part of this is all these crazy things that she did. They did a Star Wars marathon in Utah. And so they paid $50, and she gathered several of her kids that were out there in Utah, and they went to this showing of all the Star Wars films for $50 and all the popcorn you could eat. And I'm like, I think that's great family times. Like, but really, I mean, that's a long time to spend in a movie theater. But but that was her fear of missing out. Then, she could be with her kids. She didn't want to miss this event. Yada yada. And I'm like, I'm okay with missing a few things. I know I cannot be at every little thing. I can't be at every birthday for my grandchildren. It's just impractical to keep going to Indiana all the time for that. We go there for special occasions and things like that, and that's much more practical for us. And my daughter, I think, is fine with that, because I think I'd drive her crazy if we showed up for everything to begin with. So, my wife was wondering. She says, she wondered if her friends' children, didn't kind of resent that. And I said, no, I think they kind of get used to it, because they're kind of used to her personality and the way she is. But it's just interesting. Yeah, I don't know. And Dwight, as you said, speed bump. At least I don't know. I think our generations, your generation, my generation, we came, we went to school, and part of this was prepare us for life, right? And for getting out there in the real world. Now it's all this snowflakey kind of thing where, because the systems are coddling them, that they get out there, they really don't know what it is to really compete for a job. And they get, if they lose a job, they go into a mental health decline. And
it's like,
they're not tough. They're not, they're not like, pick myself up and then go, and stuff like that. And I'll use, even my late son Spencer. I thought, even when he lost his job in Arizona, he didn't fret about it. I mean, he applied for a lot of different things, but he filled in the time by, he and his wife, they went to work for Amazon, doing logistics stuff, and he tried a bunch of different. He then eventually got a part-time job. He got a job doing substitute teaching, at a school system in Arizona, because they're always looking for teachers, as we kind of alluded to the beginning. So they wanted him to stay, but he got a job with the Arizona government, which was a steady job, right? Didn't have to float anywhere. So, and that led to his next job, his final job. So he understood, he just picked himself up and did not come to mom and dad and say, I need rent money and all this stuff. He forged ahead. Where are those kind of people today? They're few and far between who would do that. They usually, they're not going to go running back to mom and dad and say, I need money to pay my bills. Spencer never did that.
And there was a recent study about parents going to debt for their children. I want to say it was the New York Times or Wall Street Journal. It said parents are basically underwriting almost like $2,000 a month or something close to that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there was something about that kind of thing, about how, the bank of mom and dad, as we kind of call it, kids have gone back to that. They've been looking for their parents to help them, right? Yeah, with anything from, helping them pay off their student loans to helping them pay off, their credit card debt and stuff like that. And not all parents have the wherewithal to do that. They may have had to work longer, past their golden years, to take care of their kids, which was not the expectation, because the kids can't get out of this rut. They get to be 30, 35, 40 years old, and they're living with mom and dad, and they're thinking, some of them just get really lazy, right? They want to sit in the basement or sit in their room and play video games all day long and not really go out there and be independent. It's like, so what happens when mom and dad pass away? If they don't have a lot of money to give you, what exactly are you going to do? Go on welfare? This the whole thing stinks.
And also, it's like, and also not on top of that, also it's like this, right? You should be taking care of your parents in their golden years. It shouldn't be the other way around, frankly. We've got, I've heard parents say, oh yeah, we just took out a second mortgage to help so-and-so do this and do that. And I feel like, see, I hate, and it's kind of like, I don't want to sound like a liberal when I say this, but it's like, there's no struggle. I mean, this is a generation that our generation, we mowed lawns, shoveled snows, raked leaves, washed cars. We did whatever we needed to get money. Even though our parents would give us money, we still wanted to have the sense of, entrepreneurship. That's why I think that's another reason I think Gen Xers have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think right now, like you're talking about kids when they lose their jobs, they're not willing to do other stuff. They're looking like if somebody say an engineer, well, I got to find an engineer's job, and that's great. Yeah, you should. But if you have to take a job at Walmart, Costco's, or Macy's, whatever, you name it, to fill the gap, because you don't want to get out of that habit of not getting up in the morning and going to a job. Because it gets really, after I think 6 months, I think they say, it gets really hard to get back into the groove of going to work every day. You get so used to just sitting home and watching The Price is Right and the daytime soaps. And now with cable channels, you got a million other things you could be, they're watching. And
and we saw some of that during COVID, right? During the lockdown. I mean, you may have a job and work from home, but without having to get into a car or catch a bus or a train or whatever to go to a physical office, it just started to change people. And so, I think our productivity and our work ethic, really took a big hit during COVID. Thank you, politicians who shut down our country, and did us a disservice, and are now even some, and to all the medical people who are now admitting that maybe COVID wasn't as big a deal as we said it was. Thank you for lying to us.
Yeah, that's for me. That's the interesting thing, that on all these things they were wrong. They said, well, a mask will stop the spread. It didn't. The vaccine will stop you from getting it or spreading it.
Hey,
It
but
doesn't.
it's funny you should mention masks. That's actually a pretty decent segue, because only place masks seem to be they're using masks because I guess COVID must be running rampant in these college encampments for the pro-Hamas, the anti-Semitic. I mean, I was over last Saturday. I did go to GW and everyone was wearing a mask. I go, you guys are outside. You don't need a mask.
Yeah.
I guess COVID. Wait, they don't want to be. They don't want their faces to be seen. That's all.
Right.
No, I mean, COVID, right? I mean, COVID gave people an excuse to wear a mask and commit crimes, even, right? I mean, how many times, now it's kind of, how many times have you seen these videos, these security cam videos where somebody, or the flash mobs run into places, and the people are wearing masks. So now you don't know who they are, right? But nobody really thinks about you. When you're wearing a mask, because a lot of people wear a mask for reasons because they think it's going to help prevent them getting a cold or whatever. They're germaphobes or whatever it is, and stuff like that. But there's some pretty nefarious reasons for doing this. And you're right. I mean, for these protests, wear a mask so you don't get identified, so you don't get suspended or something like that.
I mean, I was at the Chase Bank a couple weeks ago. Guys in there with a face mask, I'm like, I feel a little nervous when you're in a bank and somebody's got a mask on. Just, just like if I'm on an airplane, I see somebody with a mask on, I feel a little nervous.
Yeah, that's true.
And these kids, imagine, Don, if you're spending $90,000 a year to send your son or daughter or to Colombia, and they're engage, and you have what's going on there. It's like, I mean, honestly, and then the professors are giving you aid and comfort, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is outrageous. I mean, I guess, I'm not overly surprised that you have some of these things at the Ivy League schools, because we've been dealing with that really since October, right? They've been there. But the spread, I mean, to your alma mater too, right, Dwight? I mean, right?
And at Maryland too.
Yeah, Maryland is
Liliana tells me they're out camped in front
of the it's all over the country now.
Yeah, it's like I asked Liliana, are they close enough to Route 1 if I drove up and down with two big Israeli flags? Will that trigger them? And evidently they are not that they're not. It's not close. They probably wouldn't be see it because they're not paying attention. So I go, maybe I should drive around on Campus Drive with the flags.
Well, I feel a little sense of, Vietnam era deja vu, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the sit-ins take
Mhm.
over the buildings, occupy all these
Mhm.
kinds of things and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And the administrators just, twiddle their thumbs, and thinking like, oh, this is not going to be too bad. We can deal with this. But the pressure, continues to build. You know, all those presidents, who've just been, university presidents who've been sitting on their hands, they deserve to go. The professors,
But
they should not be doing this. I mean, their job is to teach the students, in their classes and things like this, and to give them an education. It is not to aid and abet these pro-Hamas, protesters, many of whom we know are not even students, right?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
They're professional agitators that are now infiltrating all of this and
Yeah,
stoking the fire even more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know something? Governor Rhodes had a riot in his state at Kent State. And you know what he did? He called in the National Guard. And he put down, and you know something? I don't think they have any riots. I have not heard of riots at Kent State for pro-Hamas riots there
Well,
or anti-Semitic riots at Kent State. I
Yeah.
think,
I
sometimes
mean,
you do
Kent
need to
State's got a little bit of a issue there, right?
the
I
shooting.
mean,
But in the
I didn't
case,
realize.
but in the
Yeah, go
case
ahead.
of GW, that's sort of isn't that kind of a surprise? I thought that there's a fairly large Jewish.
Yes, but there's also a fairly large Arab population. I think, at least when I was there, a lot of the Kuwaiti royal family kids all went to GW.
Okay.
A
Well,
lot of
Maryland should have a fairly large Jewish population. A lot of kids from New York and
yes,
New Jersey come to
yeah,
Maryland for school.
Yeah, I would
yeah,
think so. Yeah.
it does. And yet, the student government was trying to do. One of the CRs was telling me the student government is trying to do BDS resolution.
Oh yeah,
And,
I mean that's the other thing too, is that the all the BDS stuff, which had seemingly kind of died down, has been revived. Now they've been using that as another tool,
Mhm.
to say, we're not going to leave until you divest of business any businesses that you have with Israel and stuff like that. It's like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
no, that's not the issue. That's not what you're going to get here in this case.
You know,
That's a
Mhm.
whole nother issue.
one thing I guess I don't understand, and I'm not in academia, but I never quite could understand why there was a lack of discipline from these schools. Why they didn't just, in effect, say sit down and shut up, but
I'll
they
tell
just
you
let
why,
it run
David.
wild. Pardon?
Because I'll tell you why. Because the class of '68 that was rioting in the streets
Yeah.
at the Chicago convention are now the professors at these schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess that makes
Bernadine
sense.
Doyle and Bill Ayers, professors at University of Chicago. I mean, you've got basically the nuts are now running the nut house, frankly.
Yeah. I guess
And
because I'd almost take pleasure just telling you, yeah, I don't really need your opinions. You're going to sit here and you're going to learn. It reminds me of I had a high school football coach, and I know what he would have said because on the football team, he used an expression, which you probably heard before, and I'll clean it up. But I would give him my opinion on something, and he'd say to me, Shepherd, he'd say, everybody has two things. He'd say an opinion and something else. And
yeah,
so, what else? So I would almost think that attitude would have been refreshing in some of these university professors.
I
But
think some of this too, though, is just university presidents. They've been so entwined with this whole academia, this upper elite kind of thing, is that they don't want to mess with this kind of thing. And think about all the money that flows from all this tuition there, and so they're afraid that they will lose students and they will lose alumni support if they take a position and do something. But watching the campus get overrun like this, especially when you have campuses that have large Jewish populations and you don't do anything, that's more harmful to them than anything else. And I think they will pay a price for this in the long term. I mean, their reputation has been damaged. We have seen so many liberals basically saying, we're not, we're halting our contributions to
Yeah.
these schools until these things are resolved. And it's
No.
just such a shame. I mean, to see that. But it's interesting to see the liberals. It is kind of a liberal awakening with some of these mega rich people. Like, oh, you mean academia is not really what we thought it was?
Yeah, like Bill Ackman and some of the others, and kudos to John Huntsman, who said, well, who's been funding UPenn or helping to fund UPenn. He's like, well, I'm not going to give you any more money.
Robert Kraft, New England
Robert
Patriots.
Kraft, yeah.
Kraft,
And
yeah, too. Yeah.
I talked to a lot of GW alums, Maryland alums. We don't want to give money to GW anymore.
Yeah.
We don't want to give money to Maryland. I mean, I'd rather give that money to the Republican Party instead of giving,
And I never gave money, and I'm not a big donor. I'm a nothing donor with I very no money. But for my alma mater, George Mason, I never ended up giving.
You never
them
got
any
a
money.
direct mail piece from George Mason. Says, David, George Mason just gave you a great education, world class. Now it's time for you to give back to George Mason.
No, sometimes they'll send me fundraising, but for me, I paid my way through school, and it was tough enough for me to get through. And then what I didn't like about it is they made me take all these crappy courses, which lowered my overall GPA and things I didn't really need. So I just thought of it as a racket back then. I thought this is a racket.
I tell you, Governor Perry told the Texas system, come up with the $10,000 undergraduate degree. And they did. And you know how they did that? All those common core elective type classes you had to take, like women's studies, and actually you're a Mason, so you probably never take women's studies there. Yeah. But if you take those classes, they took that out. They took out a lot of fluff, and it was just a core class that you needed to be a success. And University of Texas, you have that set up.
The biggest garbage class, I think the biggest garbage class I took was I had to take a sociology class, and all it was this left-wing activist. Every class was just she'd bring in a homeless person, she'd bring in all these people would come in, and it was all just propaganda, absolute crap.
Actually, the best class I took, which is one of those, it was called Politics and Television through the ages, and she'd show a clip of some show and see Archie Bunker is a horrible person because look what he just said. And she would pause it right before, because Archie Bunker, back then, and George Jefferson, she goes, she talked about it. Then it'd be like, notice there's not a single black person on Leave It to Beaver or the Andrew Griffith Show or any of those black.
In the background, I've seen some, not a major character in the Andrew Griffith Show.
Yeah, that was where Gomer Pyle was enlisting.
Yeah. But understand, in the case of Andy Griffith, that took place in rural North Carolina, and it was probably.
Yeah, I mean, you have to judge those things on the time period they were airing.
Right.
That's part of the problem about a lot of things that is all the attempts to rewrite history. Disney trying to clean up some of their old movies.
Because,
and it's like, look, those movies took place at different times, and that was kind of the norm. You don't have to basically update the old movies and say, well, we're ashamed of those movies because they're racist, sexist, whatever.
Although Don,
it's like millions of kids have watched those and they enjoyed those, and they didn't see any political message in them. But the left has really made it feel like everything has got a message and needs to be dissected, and then corrected for the error of their ways. It's just such a ridiculous notion.
But I'm waiting for the Old Yeller remake, Don, where Old Yeller comes out with a shotgun and kills the farmer instead, because Old Yeller is a mutant dog, and he basically shoots back at the owner. That's what I'm waiting to see. They remake Old Yeller.
Well, for me, I think and there's a term for this, and as an author, I have objected to this part, is where they'll take an old piece of work, a classic, and they still make adjustments to it and change words. Oh, we don't say that anymore, so we'll change this. And pretty soon, when you do that, I think you're changing the work to the point where it's not acceptable. It's not good. It's very Orwellian. But there's a term for that. Well, they will update someone who may be dead and gone.
No, I mean, we've seen for a long time, with the Bible, right? And where the Bible had to become more gender neutral in some churches. It's like, look,
Yeah.
you know, the Bible is the Bible. All of it, you don't go back and change the Bible.
Yeah,
Remember when the wedding
no,
vows used to say love and obey? They got rid of obey.
yeah.
You know,
But the Archie Bunker show, the only thing I'll say about that is that it was a piece of propaganda, I guess, by Mailer or is it Lear? But the thing about it is that, and Buckley couldn't stand that show. But the thing about it is, I don't know, it's not realistic in this sense. I was thinking about this. Archie Bunker is supposed to be a white working class man from Queens, New York, and he's a Republican. He wouldn't be a Republican. Archie Bunker would have been a Democrat, and that's why I didn't make sense.
Well, here's what doesn't make sense, but it also shows nobody takes, you know, he had a freeloading son-in-law who didn't work. Archie would work on the docks and then drive a cab.
Right.
And to support the family, and that freeloader who's going to he's not doing a job. He's there eating him out of house and home. It shows the compassion of the conservative, where you have Archie allowing him to stay.
That's a good point.
You know?
I thought the funniest line was, remember when they had this guy coming to work doing some plumbing or something, and he was of a big Italian family, and Archie's like, well, what did he say? And Archie says, well, what was his name? And he just says, well, Tony something. And he goes, well, they're all Tony something. So I don't know. Tony.
You know, it's funny. There was after the Jeffersons moved out, I think it was after the Jeffersons moved out, an Irish family. No, the Jeffersons were still there. And there was like a Hispanic family trying to buy the house next door. And Archie, you know, George, it wasn't George, it was George's brother. I forgot. He was the boss on Scarecrow and Mrs. King. I can't think of George. Bill Jefferson, actually. And he goes, are you trying to get a petition to keep another black family from moving in here? And he goes, no, these aren't blacks. These are Mexicans. And he goes, oh, here, where do I sign? You know, so Archie and Jefferson's brother got together and then when they decide not to buy the house, there's an Irish family that buys the house. They go, oh, you know, and the woman was like an electrician and the husband was a stay-at-home dad. I tell you, for the 1970s, that was like radically revolutionary. But, you know, they make fun of Archie, but they don't understand that Archie was very compassionate. He did let people, you know, he could have kicked out. I mean, many times I wanted to kick out his son-in-law, Rob Reiner.
Yeah, no,
frankly. And his daughter wasn't much better, frankly, Sally Struthers, you know. But
no, she was just kind of a brat, just like a little hippie girl. So yeah. And then
the things they said on that show you can't say today.
No, or the Jeffersons, or even Good Times for that matter. You know,
that's right.
Although we all know the Jeffersons was actually the better show than Good Times. I thought Good Times was. All they did was.
I thought the Jeffersons. The Jeffersons was a better show.
All they did was whine and complain about being in the ghetto. They did nothing to get themselves out, unlike George and Louise, who worked hard and got bought a dry cleaning. They moved on to the Upper East Side in a deluxe apartment. You know, but. I think that's really the. I hate to say it. I think I'm sounding really old. I think that is the problem with kids, you know. And we just had Star Wars Day a couple of days ago, last week actually, May 4th, you know. And you know something? I think the Empire was right. You know, perhaps Luke Skywalker and the Rebels should have been pounded into dust. I mean, look at them. They blew up the Death Star. You know, they were doing nothing wrong. They were just trying to live their lives in the Empire, and without any provocation, you know, the rebels, you know, and now I know why. Because Mark Hamill is a crazy Democrat who's endorsed Joe Biden, and he appears at the White House and calls Joe Obi-Wan. Oh, you know, that is such a dumb joke. Obi-Wan, you know. I'm rooting for Darth Vader and General Tarkin.
Was that whole thing kind of weird though? At the press, you know, he shows up at the press conference and just it's like, it's like, okay, Mark Hamill, just go away, okay? At this
Yeah.
point in time, just go away. This like
Yeah.
you're not doing yourself any favor, by coming to the White House and doing this goofy stuff that just makes you odd. Like if you support Joe Biden, that's fine, but be a normal person about it instead
And
of
how's his acting career been since Star Wars? And what has he done since Star Wars? Not much. Harrison Ford has done Raiders of the Lost Ark, Sabrina.
Yeah, he's done a number of things.
Passenger 57, the Air Force One. He did that. Mark Hamill's done what? I think he did American Graffiti. It may have been after Star Wars, but that was like between Empire and Star Wars.
You basically you Mark Hamill and Star Wars are just intertwined.
Yeah.
And even as much as Harrison Ford is known for Indiana Jones, it is the Tom Clancy stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's done a wide range of movies and things like that. So he's all over the place, and so he's definitely been the more versatile actor, by comparison.
Yeah.
And so it's just an interesting thing to see how careers diverge too. They're just going to be people. I mean, Carrie Fisher. I mean, I think it's hard to think of Carrie Fisher as anything but Slayer.
Or Billy D. Williams. What has he done since Lando Calrissian? Nothing really. He did those Code 45 commercials, I think. But I mean,
he may have even done some of the black exploitation, whatever they call it, films.
Yes, and he also did like Allen Guinness. He got knighthood, but what has he done? I mean, we know him as Obi-Wan. We don't know him for anything else that he's done. Although I heard he was in a couple of other movies that are.
Wasn't he in that war movie, Bridge Over River Kwai?
Yes, he was in that. He was also, I think, in I want to say
was he in Dr. Zhivago?
Yeah, he was in there too.
Arabia, I think.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Sir Alec Guinness. By the time he appeared in Star Wars, his career was already cemented, right? This is the tail end of his career, kind of thing like that. He was already known for things that he had done in the past.
Yeah.
So there's not much he was going to do to say that he had to do after that. He was. I think they got him, and he was supposed to be the big, he's the big name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who knew Mark Hamill? Who really knew Harrison Ford and any of these other people very much? So
I think the biggest names there probably were James Earl Jones and
James Earl Jones, but I mean, we didn't see James Earl Jones. We just really heard James Earl Jones. I think. I mean, there's no doubt that Darth Vader, the whole James Earl Jones thing, made him, right? I mean, that voice, that whole thing. He goes on and he does so many more things.
They should have gotten somebody to do Kylo Ren's voice, from the last 3 Star Wars movies, instead of.
Does CNN still use his voice? This is CNN. Do they still use? Remember, it was James Earl Jones's voice.
They might. I
hope the James Earl Jones estate is getting some money from that, because I'd hate to see CNN exploit an African American actor, by reusing his voice.
Yeah, I think they paid him for that. Yeah, they did. It was a big.
But I tell you, it's crazy. Mark Hamill. He's a certified. He played a villain on The Flash. He was the trickster. In the 1990s Flash, as well as the CW era Flash, he was like Earth 2 or Earth 3. I think it was Earth 2's Flash. No, Earth 3. No, it was Earth 2. Yeah, it was Earth 2 Flash. He was the trickster on there, and there's this. And I'm like, he really looks goofy. I mean, he looks like a hermit, and I mean, he's according to some of the. I mean, Star Wars is no Star Trek. Let's just say that. I mean, right out. Let me put it out there. Star Trek was a much better franchise and had wider. Basically, I just thought their storylines were so much better.
Yeah, but the Star Wars franchise, particularly, I mean, the original films, were blockbusters, and
yes, they were.
They were hard to match on a box office basis.
Yeah, can't say that about Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah. I mean, Star Trek. I mean, they made quite a few films out of, which was great. I mean, that shows some staying power, and they had some good ones in there. but there was something about Star Wars.
Just the even number one's done.
And
Just
Star Wars wasn't perfect. When Lucas took way too much time off after the first three before he made the next group. If they had kept on that 3-year schedule, it would have been amazing. But
they could have used and it would have been more interesting, I think, that way. And
I mean, the whole thing was planned for. They planned that whole thing, right? They were going to do, they were going to do 9 of them anyway. But then he just stopped doing them for a number of years. It's like, I think that was a critical mistake, because the other ones after the first 3 were okay. I mean, it was so up and down with those, but they still brought in a lot of money. But I can only imagine if they'd been able to do those, if they'd kept that up, over time, they would have been able to wrap that up with, Carrie Fisher still would have been alive to have completed them, right? Things like that. So they wouldn't have had to use all this imaging,
So Alec Guinness would still have been alive.
Yeah, Alec Guinness would have probably still been alive to potentially do a majority of those. So, it's hard to watch, as those guys got older, when they came back for that second, third round, see them older, that was harder, because they had definitely aged, and so you can only do so much with that. So I think that it lost some of the charm of that, but just like sci-fi fans are sci-fi fans, and they're fanatics about them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the last 3 Star Wars movies were basically a reboot of Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The last 3, they were so predictable. It's like we knew the rebels were going to get really hammered in the second movie, because they blew up those terrorists blew up another Death Star that was actually terraformed. They blew it up, and you think, and this for the Empire's engineers, you think you'd fix that little problem you have, where anybody can just fly in and drop a bomb and blow up your entire star base. You might want to think about that, rethink that a little bit. I thought it was just little. I thought, the first one where they're on a desert planet, which was just like, and the girl Rey, without any Jedi training, she has all this. She's able to use all these Jedi powers and tricks, without, it's like, what is that? That was insane, But enough about our movie segment,
Yeah, maybe we go back to the news now.
And we got an election.
That was the entertainment, culture and entertainment portion of the program.
We've got an election on next week. Have you voted, by the way, yet? I voted yet. Thursday. No.
I dropped my mail ballots off today.
Okay, good.
We're now permanent mail-in voters if we want to be, which I realize that's the lazy person's way out of it, but it's convenient as heck.
And it is.
But I do take it to the post office, because I don't want to just put it in my mailbox for the mailman to pick up.
Yeah. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think also Brooks wins the Democrat primary for Senate. She beats David Trone, and then she loses to Larry Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, this is Hogan's race to lose. I've seen, because I've been watching some Hulu here, and Trone has been hitting on Hulu. They've been lots of Trone ads. There is a woman to vote or something, or they're putting up an anti-Trone ad, which is really pretty funny, talking about how Trone made contributions to all these MAGA Republicans across the United States. Because that helps him buy influence. Yeah. But everything else has been David Trone commercials. So Trone's definitely got a ton of money. I don't know if I've seen any Also Brooks commercials. I've seen a few.
I've seen a few in broadcast television.
I've seen a few of her, her signs, and things like that, but not many. So I think Also Brooks she's got an uphill battle, because in some ways, I mean, she's known in PG County, but Trone has just got so much money.
Yeah, but I think
once again,
Trone had a few public meltdowns that I think are going to hurt him. And
the thing,
I think she ekes it. I think it would be less than 10,000 votes, but I think she wins.
the thing that gets me is just that I'm not sure what the difference is between David Trone and Angela Brooks is, as a Democrat, right? They're Democrats, so they
Mhm.
because they both seem to be positioning themselves as, you need to elect me, vote for me because I can beat Larry Hogan,
Yeah.
who will cement a Republican majority in the U.S. Senate, and we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect women's right to abortion. We have to protect our democracy. The Trone commercial has the one with images of J6
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And
I mean, I wonder if David Trone even has any sense to know that, hey, January 6th, Larry Hogan was in Annapolis. Larry Hogan strongly condemned January 6th.
yeah, and I've seen several Ficker ads. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, and they're really good
Yeah, I've
commercials
seen
too.
Twitter ads.
pretty
I've
well
heard him a
done.
lot on the radio. I've heard him on the radio a lot.
But
of
one
Ficker.
thing I did find funny, I got a Larry Hogan mailer that Maryland was misspelled on.
Uh-oh.
But as I say, Dan Quayle made it okay for Republicans to be good Republicans and be bad spellers.
Yeah. And I saw the Facebook post by Warren Miller about why he can't vote for Hogan, and I think he makes some good points.
Mm-hmm.
But I take a broader view of this, which is just like, I want a Republican senator from Maryland. I realize that Larry Hogan is more likely to be in the Mitt Romney, Susan Collins,
But
mold.
I don't think he's going to be bad as, say, Mitt Romney. I think he'll be better than Mac Mathias, or Jay Glenn Bell, And yes, David Robbins got a lot of commercials. I see a lot of them on Fox News in the morning. It's
Yeah. So I mean, I think Hogan still has, he's still got a very good network
Mhm.
of people and things like that. And I do have half a mind to sign up to volunteer for his campaign, though I'm not exactly sure what I would do at my age, stuff like that.
Cover a poll on election day.
I still think, by and large, he
Mhm.
did a good job when he was governor, given the situation he was in. Exactly what you're supposed to do as a Republican governor in Maryland. When you have a legislature that's not going to give you diddly squat, you got to do the best you can to try to get something. Issue those executive orders, do a few other things, try and just basically really try to stop the liberals from overrunning the state and raising our taxes to the up the wazoo and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because we see what happens with Wes Moore is that the sky's the limit on anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, at the end of the day, even for Larry, he's going to have a tough battle to get to Washington, frankly. He had two very weak opponents when he ran for governor. He had two. Anthony Brown was a horrible candidate, and Ben Jealous. Ben Jealous. Right? He was a lousy candidate, and Larry, took advantage of that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was perfect. I mean, if you're going to elect a Republican governor, I think Ehrlich had the same advantages.
Yeah.
In his term, is that Kathleen Kennedy Townsend was just a terrible candidate, and you do that, and you convince enough people that of your policies, and you can make it work in Maryland. So
and I think KKT also felt a little nervous about Ross Pierpont, who would always insult her.
And there's no doubt I would always rate Bob Ehrlich way ahead of Larry Hogan as a Republican governor.
Bob Ehrlich is by far the if you ask 10 Republicans who's your favorite former Republican governor, it'd be Larry Hogan, Bob Ehrlich, Spiro Agnew, and then Larry Hogan.
Well, the thing about Hogan, you need him because to protect the filibuster, number one.
Yep.
And that you'll need a Republican majority.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's close. I mean, I have my problems with Hogan, of course, but I know that about 50% of the time he'll be voting right.
And let me be blunt: we're Republicans. We have problems with all of our Republicans at some point or another. I mean, we loved Paul Ryan until we didn't. We
Right.
loved President George W. Bush until we didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
We
But-
loved George H.W. Bush until we didn't. Even,
Yeah,
you know,
but the other key
I'm
factors
older-
to remember, it's also Maryland. And so if Larry Hogan's running in
Mhm.
South Carolina or something, well, of course that's different. Of course
you
you
would see a different Larry Hogan, obviously, you know.
Yeah,
And-
probably.
I mean, look, I mean, Rand Paul does not vote with the Republican line all the time either.
Neither does
Yeah.
Massey, Tom Massey, who
Oh,
is the
that's true.
darling of the. This man is a horrible libtard who wanted to basically remove the speaker. You
Yeah.
know, honestly, these people, they are an utter embarrassment. You know, we had a majority that was slim. Now it's down to a 1-seat majority, and they're still trying to do stupid things like
Yeah.
remove the speaker. You know, govern, for crying out loud. I want you to cut spending. That's why you're in Washington, not for, you know, all these other nonsensical things you're doing. You know, Kevin McCarthy
that
was
was-
a great speaker. Frankly.
That was complete
And they-
political malpractice. I mean, to get rid of McCarthy, and well, we've been through this so many times.
I
know,
hope
but-
Matt Gates loses. I hope Matt Gates has a primary and he loses, frankly.
Yeah, I hope so.
You know, the
But
guy.
it's just odd. It was political malpractice.
Yeah, no, I mean the Republicans are great at shooting themselves in the foot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
That's true.
I mean, I remember the Reagan era. I mean, even people like Jesse Helms would be a thorn in President Reagan's side. You know, it's, you know, you had a couple of Southern senators that were like that, frankly, that were,
Yeah.
you know, a thorn in President Reagan. Oh, we need a road to come down here or something like that, you know. And if that's not in the budget, we're not voting for it. That kind of thing.
But I think Republicans still could hold the House. I know a lot of people think they're behind in the generic ballot.
I think,
the other
look,
day,
I
but
think Neil Parrott wins his primary in CD6. Neil Parrott, with a little bit of luck and a whole lot of money, Neil can win the CD6 seat, frankly. Also, by the way, I think Patrick Morsi is a wash of cash. I saw his commercial today
yeah,
on, honestly, I saw it on Fox. But the Fox was at the local NBC affiliate this afternoon, or the CBS. I saw it on the CBS affiliate this afternoon, actually, when I was channel surfing. Why is Morsi doing an ad in the DC market? I mean, we were not in the Martinsburg TV market, frankly.
well, he's running for governor of West Virginia.
No, he's running for U.S. Senate against our friend Alex.
I thought it was Justice, not Morsi.
Oh yeah, you're right, Morsi. Yeah, you're right. My bad. But still,
Morsi, I guess, is running for governor. I guess.
yeah, but why is Morsi even running ads in the DC market?
I don't know. Does the DC market hit West Virginia? Maybe it could get.
Not
DC
Martinsburg. I mean, I know people who live in Martinsburg. Come on, we have viewers in Martinsburg. Do you guys watch the DC market, or you guys watch that station out of Winchester? You know, I mean, then again, the cable market, they may be getting the kind of Harrisonburg used to get DC cable news. You know, there's no TV station in Harrisonburg. You know, it was not a media market. You know, unlike Saginaw, Michigan, which is probably about the same size as Harrisonburg, they had like 3 television stations there. But we are getting close to final thoughts, Don. It's 2 minutes till, unless we go into extra innings, you know.
yeah.
And this week with the Ellen Sauer dinner, I'm working on borrowed time. Like I got it. I got back, and then the next morning, and it's funny, my watch said I fell asleep for 30 minutes, and I'm like, no way. I was in all the meetings, and I go, I did not fall asleep for 30 minutes. I would have known if I fell asleep for 30 minutes, you know. But anyways, final thoughts. Let's start with you, David. Final thoughts.
Well, finally, I should have the book done next week. It'll be out for sale, and then I'll let you guys know about that. Just hanging in there, and hopefully, I'm sorry, it's kind of a miserable day, kind of cool here. Like you said, I'm looking forward to more summery weather, but otherwise, doing good. So that's my final thought.
We'll have you come back and talk to the club with your new book.
Yeah, I think the new one will be good. It comes in about 169 pages, so it's a short novel. It's tight. And then it deals with the governor's decision because he's going to meet his end, and then he's got to make a decision. So we find out whether he leaves office voluntarily and why. So anyway, it's should be a good book. I'm optimistic. I like it. So we'll see. We'll see if others.
Okay.
That's about it.
Final thought. Yeah. Final thoughts, Don.
Yeah, a few things. I mean, the Trump's hush money trial continues. Stormy Daniels got on the stand, and I think what we see from that is just that she can't keep her story straight. This shows. I think what New York has here is just an obvious case of a political vendetta. Stormy she had already tweeted out long ago that she hated Donald Trump anyway. So there's a lot of things going on there. So things don't line up very well. She doesn't really know anything about the money trail or anything like that, which is all trumped up anyway in terms of how they broke it down to separate charges. So I don't see that I don't think that she helped, the case there against Trump at all. And I think it does make the public, think that, this is just railroading Donald Trump. This is more. I think that you were alluding to that earlier, David. Is like these kinds of things help Trump. I mean, these are all these trials were supposed to destroy Trump and derail him, but they're helping him. And then Judge Cannon has postponed indefinitely the documents case. So it's one thing that leads to another. We've got the immunity ruling that we won't get for a little while from the Supreme Court. So it's unlikely too much is going to go on that's going to hurt, Trump. The gag order by the judge is kind of a goofy, stupid thing, and I think people see through that as well. So this is part of the reason why Trump leads, Biden overall, in a lot of the swing states, and why they're in such a tight race. This is kind of unheard of, I think, for an incumbent president to be in a situation like that where he just can't get out of the polling rut, and there's a severe threat that he will not win re-election, and Donald Trump will return to office. So the Democrats did them to themselves by putting forth all these things, and I don't think the trial in Georgia with Fani Willis is going any better. So it's just they threw all these things up there, and nothing is going very well.
Do you think we'll see rioting if Trump wins in the streets election night? If Trump wins,
no, I don't think the country's going to, and that's part of it too. I think you got a lot of the liberals will say, the country's going to, democracy falls.
Maxine Waters.
Yeah, you're going to have pockets of people who complain, but I think we're better than that overall.
And the other thing, and I would just simply quickly add that I don't think people thought Biden was going to run again 4 years ago. I don't think they saw that. So they voted for him once. I really don't think they planned on voting for him again, though. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that was the whole point, that he was just going to be the bridge and then wait for someone else to take over. So
I do think there was a lot of thought that, when you pick Kamala Harris, the younger person, is that you've got the black woman coming in. It's like you pave the way for the first female president, to come into office and things like that. And she appeared at the time to be somewhat competent, after with the debates, but all of that went quickly away, with all the assignments she was given, that she's shown that, she can't talk worth a darn. She's nothing but word salad and speeches. Yeah. She doesn't know the issues. She's horrible. So, the Democrats have wound up with two bad candidates in essence. So they're I think they're in definitely full scale panic as to what happens here. And we're less than 6 months away. Yeah. So there's not a lot of time between now and then, and the campus protests, this isn't help. I mean, as school ends, that should mostly go away because students will go home, but it still will linger for some people, and the students will return in the fall. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, but if the students are feeling, the left wing continues to fan the flames, in the Middle East, and they're still looking for some kind of solution, they could go back in September and protest again, and that would definitely, hurt Biden. I mean, all these things, will be just pecking away at spots of where Biden had some strength, but but we'll lose voters. You'll lose some young voters. You'll lose some Jewish voters. And in reality, I mean, we know. I mean, Trump just has to win the electoral vote. He doesn't have to win the popular vote.
Yeah.
But he could, theoretically, depending on what happens, he could win both, which I think would just make liberals go completely crazy.
Yeah, I think he can. It looks like he's on his way to doing it.
I think if he does that, let me tell you, they're going to, let me tell you, it'll be nice to watch Mika and Joe in the morning after Trump wins.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see tears or screaming and tears, or we'll see them like maybe they'll say, "Hey, we were wrong about President Trump." Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. But
All right, just one other thing. Then I'll throw out there too. Is just that where the White House announced that Joe Biden will be giving shorter speeches because they want quality over quantity. That goes hand in hand with the phalanx of people they have that are trying to guard him as he goes to the helicopter now, right? I mean,
yeah.
So you can't see him shuffling.
The quantity over quality simply means it'll be so short he won't have a gaffe, and then you have quality because you don't have a gaffe.
Yes, his speeches will be, "I'm really glad to be here today. Yeah. Good night, everyone, and God bless America." Oh, he does he say God bless America at all? Or does he?
God save the Queen, man.
Yeah,
save the Queen, man.
Pretty much so. Back to you, Dwight.
Okay, a couple things. One, last year at we all got a copy of Christine Holmes' book at the Red, White, and Blue Dinner. I've yet to crack it open, but I think I do want to read it now because I think it is the same book, and I am very intrigued by the chapter "A Bad Day to Be a Goat." That might be the.
Kind of hard to imagine her being a VP candidate at this point, right? I mean,
no, I think she's done.
I think she's done being governor too, frankly.
Yeah, it's really what a self-destruction. I mean, why even want to bring something like that up? It's an unforced error.
I tell you, okay, let me tell you, her life.
And she wouldn't let it go. She kept bringing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Just I mean, if somebody brings it, you can kind of put the story away and just do it. But she even kind of helped keep the story alive. And like
shooting the dog.
Unfathomable.
Yeah.
Shooting the dog. Come on.
Yeah.
All the grief Mitt Romney got for putting the dog on the roof of a station wagon in a carriage, which the dog probably enjoyed. Yeah. Come on. Now you're talking about shooting a dog? I mean,
it's stupid.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well. And then this whole weird thing about, did she meet Kim Jong-un or whatever? It's like, what is all that about?
At least she's not saying. I mean, did she say in the book she could see Canada from her kitchen?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on with her. It's too bad because she is kind of the bright and shining star there, but boy did she just kill a lot of things right then and there.
Yeah.
I mean, what's next? I want to read it because I want to see if she mentions that she saw space aliens kidnapping cows from her farm or something right in there. I wonder if that's going to be in there. That'd be kind of interesting to see. I know George Norton would love to have her on to talk about cows being kidnapped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's another.
Actually, that's how she shot the goat. She was trying to keep the aliens from taking her cows, and she missed it. And the goat was actually an alien hybrid, so she had to kill the goat. Oh. But also next week we have election day. Go out and vote, everyone. Vote early. Vote for Neil Parrott if you're in CD6. And Neil's a great guy. Vote for Neil Parrott.
I would love to vote for Neil Parrott, but apparently I'm an 8 now again. So
yeah, well, pick whichever one. I picked the one with the second name on the ballot because I don't even remember who the first was on. But
I don't know who either one of them are. It's just like eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, basically it's like and vote for the sitting judges. Everybody but the last one, which is Marilyn Pierre.
Just don't vote for Marilyn Pierre and you're fine.
Yeah, and Board of Education, just vote for Bethany Mandel and call it a day. That's all you need to do is vote for Bethany Mandel.
Well, there was another one. I think it was Diaz or whatever. She was also interviewed by Independent Women's Forum and Julie Gunlock. So apparently she got the endorsement of Independent Women's Forum. So I thought, at this point, why that sounds good to me.
I didn't know that, so I just voted for
Yeah.
Bethany Mandel.
Otherwise, you just stick with Bethany, which I didn't. Who until it came up, I didn't. A few months ago, I didn't even know she lived in Montgomery County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she lives in Rockville or Silver Spring, someplace like that, or somewhere in between. But so go out and vote. And if you're a Democrat, go out and don't forget to cast your ballot for Angela Alsobrooks. She's the future.
There goes White endorsing a Democrat.
Yeah, and if you're a Democrat, you may want to vote for RFK for president.
Mm.
And if you're a Democrat, you may want to just skip November's election, frankly. It's going to be a little too hard for you. Hey, Susan, how are you? Just in time for final thoughts. But
just as we ready to sign off.
Yeah, and
you have to watch the rebroadcast or whatever.
Yeah. Last Monday we had Ellen Sauer. We did the tribute. It was an all-star studded. The who's of the Maryland Republican Party was there, and it was a great event. And I'll link to the video. If you go to my Facebook page, there's a fabulous video with Ellen Sauer, which had great music and reruns. Yeah, that's right. You can watch it right after this. And hey, Susan, let me test you. If I say rerun Van Pelt, who is that? Let's see if you know that. But yes, it was wonderful. I should put these up on the screen. And it is it's Mrs. Sauerbrand, but never mind. But yeah, it was a great event. Oh, wow, you knew that. No, most people don't get that. Yes, that is Lucy and Linus's little brother, Riemann Van Pelt. And one of the first cartoons, he was over on the playground. We were all talking about crabby older sisters, and tells Lucy, you won. Of all the crabby sisters, you're the crabbiest older sister out there. And there's another scene where he goes, people say, aren't you the little boy that has that brother that carries around that stupid blanket everywhere? And I say, oh, no, I'm an only child, I say. But great, check out. He's probably one of the funnier Peanut characters, frankly. And the other final thought is we've got coming up next month is D-Day. We got a very special Pizza in Politics from the Republican Club on D-Day. We're working on a really big name to come and talk to us that day. And if you guys missed it, the club had a great event with Governor Ehrlich Kendall last night in Bethesda, Maryland. It was a wonderful event. And everyone should get out and go get the book, Governor's book, if you haven't got it yet. And good night, everyone. And we'll see everyone next week. Good night.
All right. Good night.
See you.